Hello, friends. All right, so today we are going to talk about chapters 4, 5, and 6. And I have to be honest with you, I really like these 3 chapters. I think they really resonated with how I feel about certain things, a lot of my own experiences, what I do for a living, and how I help people to overcome these things, and just so many good tidbits of information. So I'm actually going to kind of go through each chapter here, but the first thing we touched on a little bit on chapters 1 through 3 was just making sure that we have a plan in place. And do you have a plan? Does having a plan make you nervous? Are you someone that's a planner in other areas of your life, but maybe with health and food it isn't part of your life? And maybe part of that reason is because you actually are just so confused. You don't know what to do, right? And that is normal, because the Food and Drug Administration makes things very confusing, and so we're not really sure what the right way to go is. But it's actually an area that I can help you, and I would be glad to help. So I did post that food plan, an example of how I eat on a weekly basis, and a plan that I have. And we can definitely touch on those plans. And if you are someone that needs a lot of help there, I would be happy to help you. But having that plan is the first key to success. And so that may be where you need to start is, okay, where do I find this plan? What can my plan be? And I can help you with that. So if that is an area that you need help, please let us know. And so the next step is accountability. Okay, so we can have all the greatest plans, but life is going to happen, and there are going to be things that just come in our way. And we can have that plan and that deep reason why, but oftentimes we need that extra step of accountability, a success partner, someone that we can count on that's going to hold us accountable to the goals that we do set for ourselves. And the coolest thing about what I do as an online health and fitness coach is I run these accountability groups every single month, because I know that personally on my journey, it is the only way that I have been able to stay consistent in staying on track with my nutrition and my health, and staying away from letting my eating disorders come and rear their head. Because an eating disorder it's an emotional thing. It's not a physical. It's a mental and an emotional thing. And when I know that I'm connected to people that care about me, and that I can check in with and be honest with and be vulnerable with, it helps me to stay on track. So that's really important. And as you continue on, and as you are on this journey of making changes, it can be really hard, right? And it sometimes doesn't feel good. And it's those choices are different than the choices you made before. And so they are harder. But here's the thing, you can overcome, and you can use the word, and you can use a friend to help you. And one of the things at the beginning of chapter 4 that she talks about that I was like, whoa, that's so true, is she says in here, we must be aware that desperation breeds degradation. In other words, when what is lacking in life goes from being an annoyance to an anxiety, we run the risk of compromising in ways we never thought we would. And so she was kind of talking about how she took sugar from her diet, and it made her feel terrible. And all she wanted to do was run to the store and hook an IV up to Betty Crocker, right? How many times have we done these things? And coming from an eating disorder survivor, yes, so many things in my life, when they came to extreme anxiety, I would totally binge eat. And it's crazy. And you are like, what is, as you're in the moment, you're thinking to yourself, what the heck is wrong with me? But you know what? That's Satan. That is Satan, and he is capitalizing on your weaknesses. And when we don't establish that level of self-control, and we're not alert to that, Satan targeting you, that's what he's going to do. He's going to put you in a place of degradation, basically, where you get so desperate that you just do things that you never thought you would. And it truly happens with food. The other thing that happens with food is that it really is, there's some chemicals in our foods that trigger these cravings as well. Like you've probably heard high fructose corn syrup. It actually like super makes you addicted to it. Like you can't stop eating it. And there is some chemical stuff that's going on in your brain with that. Just sugar in general is more addicting on your brain than heroin. How crazy is that, right? So there are some things that physically happen, that scientifically happen, that make it even harder. So it's even more important for you to recognize that and overcome that. But if you can understand that, okay, this is where I'm weak and the devil's going to capitalize there, you can put your armor, you can put your shield of armor for God up and say, not today, Satan. And that's one of my favorite phrases. So just remember that when you persevere through something that's really hard, through maybe a breakdown, through, you're in that place of super desperation where you're ready to make a bad decision, and you just ask God for guidance and strength, and knowing that He will never tempt you beyond what you can handle. Saying that, looking for a way out, and you are going to come through this breakthrough. And you're suddenly going to just start seeing these results. And that's really what she talks about in here, and what she is sharing, is that's when she started to have those results. You have to trust the process, because it is a process. And you have to recognize that it's not going to be easy, but anything worth anything is hard, right? So it will be worth it. It will be worth it in the end. So just remember that having an accountability partner, a group, a support system is crucial, because oftentimes we just need that extra step. We like to eat in secret. Maybe we need a plan in place. And so that's chapter 4. But moving on to chapter 5 is all about who you see yourself as. And this is such a huge weighs so heavily on my heart, because I feel like so many of us look at ourselves, and we identify ourselves as the result of circumstances that were probably more than likely out of our control. Maybe somebody treated you a certain way, or somebody said something to you, or you were raised a certain way, and you were made to feel like you weren't worth it, that you were a failure. You are not. You were made for more. You were made for greatness. When God created you, He had a plan for your life. And if you can start to embrace that and recognize that you are a child of God, and He sees you as beautiful, fearfully and wonderfully made, that you will start to change your perspective. And I like what she says in here. We were made for more than this. We were made more than this failure, more than this cycle, more than being rolled by taste buds. We were made for victory. Sometimes we just have to find our way to that truth. And maybe you've had God whisper that to you in your ear here or there, saying like, this isn't you. You were made for more than this. And I can personally tell you that this was in my ear many, many times during my years of my partying years. And I had a lot of different relationships, and just made a lot of bad decisions that were influenced by alcohol. And I really heard that voice many times on that journey. It was like, this isn't you. Like, you were made for more than this. And so if you're hearing that, just say, yes, I know that I was made for more, and I know that I am right where I'm supposed to be right now in this moment, because I was made for more. And I need to learn how to embrace that and start to identify what are the great qualities about me that are going to connect me to my passions, so that I can have an impact on this world, and I can see myself as God sees me. So let's talk about that a little bit. And let me see here. So you can be persistent. You keep asking God for His help. And this prayer is great. God, I recognize I'm made for more than the vicious cycle of being rolled by food. I need to eat, to live, not to live to eat. So I keep asking for your wisdom to know what to eat, and your indwelling power to walk away from things that are not beneficial for me. So keeping that prayer and just understanding that we are children of God and that we are made for more. And I encourage you to go to page 53 in your book and write these things down. And this is, say your name and say, Kirsten, the forgiven child of God, the set free child of God, the accepted child of God, the loved child of God. And I encourage you guys to write those affirmations down and look at them every single day, because Satan, again, he's going to try to tear that away from you and make you feel bad about yourself. But if you can ground yourself in the truth, you will get to know God better, and you will grow closer to him, and you will start to fill those cravings with his love versus all those other things that we fill them with. And you know what? If you think about it, are you ever satisfied? Do you ever feel satisfied when you start to fill your spirit with the wrong things? So just know that you are made for more than excuses and in vicious cycles. We can experience truth. We can choose to stay on the path of hard work and perseverance. We can build one success on top of the other. We can keep made for more at the top of our minds and on the tips of our tongues. And our eating habits can be totally transformed as we keep asking, embracing our true identity, finding the deeper reason for claiming that identity, and operating in the hope and power like no other. Like there's no other. So I want you to ask yourself that question. Have you ever felt your identity was defined by your circumstances? Is that how you see yourself? And I want you to start reframing how you see yourself. And then in this last chapter, it's talking about growing closer to God. And sometimes that's going to come with denying yourself things in order to grow closer to him. So asking yourself that question, is there a food that I absolutely will not deny myself of? And that gives you a real clue of how you're letting it control you. And so that may be where you need to start, and to start making those sacrifices to prove that you aren't controlled by anything and that you can do this. So I love the part where she talks about the fruit of the Spirit, and this is something that I pray upon and I want to live by, and that's living by love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And all of this that we talk about in here goes so much back to self-control. And so when you're living with the Spirit inside of you, you are able to live these godly characteristics. And I encourage you to strive to live this way. And thinking about what we already talked about is that food choice is permissible, but not beneficial. And so being strong in those choices. And, she talks about how food, it isn't sinful. But when food is what Satan holds up in front of us and says, you'll never be free from this battle, you will always bounce from feeling deprived when you're dieting to feeling guilty when you're splurging. Victory isn't possible. You aren't capable of self-control with food. That is when it becomes sinful. That is when Satan has told us lies and we're believing them. So you are capable of overcoming. So just remember that defeat is taking you further away from God. And so I think a lot of what this chapter is kind of bringing this all together for us and saying that, we can make the right decisions that aren't necessarily the easy decisions, but again, that's honoring God. And when you honor him, you build your relationship with him, and you are able to hear his voice, and you are able to live by the Spirit. And you are able to truly become who you were meant to become in his eyes. So you don't want to be ruled by something other than God, because it diminishes our commitment and will make us feel increasingly distant. That's kind of like what I just said. So let's see. And then just the last part, I like what she says. While making the intentional choice to deny myself unhealthy food options probably isn't the most popular route to growing closer to God, it is a route nonetheless, a thrilling, hard, practical, courageous, spiritual journey with great physical benefits. So just because it seems almost silly to think that food, something that we need to survive, that God provided for us, can be sort of looked at in a sinful way or distance us from God, might sound like, wow, that's really, really interesting, right? But if you look at the principles that she's talking about in here and you say to yourself, okay, I am totally obsessing over this thing and it's controlling me, then it is my God. You know, food can ultimately become your God when you are obsessed. It's all you think about. It dictates all of your life and your decisions. So you have to deny yourself of that, and it will help you to grow spiritually closer. So I hope these next 3 chapters were helpful, and this little tutorial and my little tips and things that I got from it were helpful too. So I'm enjoying walking this journey with you, and I will see you guys tomorrow.